laughing when I killed my mother.
Why'd you get rid of that shirt?
It had pieces of my mother's brain stuck to it. Probably killed Josh with a sledgehammer too.
This is 15-year-old Zachary Davis. He's just been brought in for questioning after a fire was discovered at his house. Initially, the tragedy appeared to be nothing more than an unfortunate accident. That is, until a body was discovered inside the home. Even more horrifying was the fact that the victim, Zachary's mother, hadn't been killed by the flames, but by a sledgehammer before the fire was even started. In about 3 seconds, you'll see Zachary crack, but not in the way anyone expected.
It looks kind of evil when you do that, I'm gonna have to say. I think you know you're doing it.
In this never-before-seen interrogation footage, Zachary is brutally honest as he details his crime, and yet his astonishing motive leaves investigators wondering how much of this chilling tale is the result of a disturbed mind or a series of cleverly concocted lies. In the early hours of August 10, 2012, emergency services were called to a house fire in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Inside the burning home, firefighters discovered the body of Melanie Davis lying on her bed, covered in blood and brutally disfigured. The single mom of 2 teenage boys worked as a paralegal and trained as a triathlete. Outside the home, one of her sons, 17-year-old Joshua Davis, waited with the police, but his younger brother, Zachary, was nowhere to be found. 4 hours later and around 5 miles from the home, police spotted 15-year-old Zachary Davis as he walked alone down a road, attempting to leave town. He was subsequently picked up and brought to the Summer Country Sheriff's Office for questioning. His interview is just the beginning of a truly disturbing case, filled with shocking allegations and a series of twisted lies.
This is the Sheriff's Office, and what we'd like to do is talk to you about something happened at your house, and that's what we kind of like to talk to you about. You've probably seen some cop shows and stuff, right? You've seen police shows and things like that. You do have rights and stuff, and so before asking you questions, you must understand your rights. You want to go ahead and talk to us about what happened tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you do, Zach, what I want to do is make sure you understand that this is a waiver, right, saying you're waiving your rights. What I'd like to do is make sure you can read and write. If you would, read that last paragraph out loud.
I have read this statement of my rights, and I understand what my rights are.
With his confirmation that he's waiving his rights, the interview gets underway.
You've never been in any trouble, have you?
No, sir.
So, no trouble in school, nothing like that?
No, sir.
One of the obvious unusual characteristics about Zachary is his lack of expression of emotion or emotional detachment. His monotone voice and flat facial expression are indications of a person who is either guarded and is consciously avoiding any show of emotion, or a person who struggles to express emotion because of some other issue, such as a psychotic disorder like schizophrenia, or a developmental disorder like autism spectrum disorder. Though he doesn't offer up a lot of information himself, the investigators have researched Zachary's family and began asking him about his past to get him comfortable with talking to them.
I understand that your father had passed away.
Yes, sir.
How did he pass away?
He died from albuquerque disease.
Pretty rough on you, wasn't it?
No, sir.
It didn't bother you?
No, sir.
I was told that it bothered you. That you were upset about your dad. Is that not true?
No, sir.
So it is true?
No, sir.
Okay.
In 2007, the Davis family faced their first tragedy, but certainly not their last. The 2 boys lost their father, Chris, to amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. Losing a parent is traumatic for any child, but despite his denials, his father's death impacted Zachary even more severely than most, and with consequences that would unfold years later. According to family, Zachary was already a quiet kid, but at only 9 years old when his father died, he became even more withdrawn. Following the tragedy, the family, now just Melanie and her 2 sons, moved to Sumner County, and though this was meant to be a fresh start, things would only get worse for them once there. At 11, Zachary began to display strange behavior, though it isn't clear exactly what, but Melanie grew concerned enough to seek medical help for her son.
Have you ever had to see a doctor for anything as far as having problems with thinking about things or anything?
I saw a few therapists shortly after we moved here, but wasn't for a very long duration of time.
What was that about? Who wanted you to see a therapist?
My mother.
She did. Okay, so it was just a couple times is all you saw him. How long ago was that?
The year that we moved here.
You remember what year that was?
2008, I think.
What were the reasons that your mama wanted you to go to therapy?
She never told me.
Zachary was diagnosed with a depressive disorder, but that was just the beginning. He also told doctors that he was hearing voices, including the voice of his deceased father, and he was soon diagnosed with psychosis. However, at some point, his mother stopped his mental health treatment, but it's unknown exactly why. While psychosis itself is not a clinical disorder, it is a symptom that is often associated with schizophrenia. Onset of schizophrenia in children is very rare, but still possible. Other causes of hearing voices during childhood could include depression, an anxiety disorder, and/or experiencing a traumatic event, such as the death of a parent. Despite Zachary telling investigators he wasn't seeing anyone for help, the calendar on his phone showed that he had at least one meeting with the guidance counselor at his school, Ms. Higgs, indicating that perhaps someone realized something was wrong, though no one could have guessed the true extent of just how disturbed he was.
Something went on at your house today, and I just kind of like you to kind of tell us what happened.
I killed my mom in her sleep with a sledgehammer.
Is there a reason why you did that?
Yes, sir.
Well, can you tell me why?
No, sir.
You can't tell me why?
No, sir.
Is it a reason you don't know why you did it, or you just don't want to tell?
I do know why I did it. I just rather not tell.
Okay. You do know why you did it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you set the house on fire too?
I tried to. I don't know if it actually caught the whole house on fire, though.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, it did. I mean, a little bit, I think, but not bad or anything. Have you been having problems with your mom?
No, sir.
Unlike most crimes, it's all too clear that Zachary is the killer, but though he states freely that he killed his mother, this story will change eventually. Hauntingly, recovered text messages between Zachary and his mom seem to indicate that they had a seemingly ordinary, even loving relationship. In one, Zachary wrote to his mother, "Sorry, I was asleep," with a heart emoji. Another, this one from Melanie to Zachary, reads, "Love you, tried to talk to you before we left, but your door was locked." Through these texts, the family appeared to be perfectly normal, but that couldn't be further from the truth.
We found a book on a notepad that was on you, and it said some things in there. Is that notepad yours that we found? It talks about your mom and about.
Yes, sir.
And that's what's so important about this. I mean, we want to understand what. Like I said, you don't have to tell us if you don't want to. I mean, but we want to understand, what happened. I mean, that's important. I mean, I know it could be kind of scary to talk about, but.
Would you feel more comfortable if there were just one person in the room?
I don't mind having two people here.
Okay.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
And like I said, like I told you in your rights, you don't have to tell us if you don't want to. It's very important though that, something like this that happens, there's usually a reason for it. And, that's what we want to know is the reason. This is your time to tell us, why that happened,
I'd rather not, sir.
Okay.
The text messages from the day before he killed his mom show them planning to go to a movie. Melanie first wrote, Hey, sweetie, I just took Josh to the orthodontist. We'll be back hopefully soon. Then later, we can see Born or Campaign today. I want to see both. And, sounds good, Josh is back in, but we may need to pick him up at Ryan's house. The last message she sent before her death was to Zachary and reads only, okay, with a heart. It's eerily clear that Melanie had no idea what Zachary was planning, or that she would meet such a horrific end just hours after attending a movie with her 2 sons. Zachary's brother Josh has also been brought to the police station to speak with police. He was asked to recount his day before the fire was set. He told them that he had gone to the orthodontist with his mother before returning home. His answer also reveals a bit about his relationship with his brother.
What's Zach doing when you get home?
I think she's playing Xbox or something. We kind of, I don't know, we kind of keep to ourselves, I guess.
Okay, so you and Zach don't have a good relationship?
Well, no, we do. It's just like, I don't know, like he just kind of, stays to himself. He's kind of a quiet person, I guess.
Has he been having any problems? I mean,
he's always been kind of like quiet, I guess odd.
Josh seems hesitant to talk about his brother, and although he's giving limited information, the descriptive words such as quiet and odd may indicate that Zachary was showing signs of mental health issues. What's also strange here is Josh's apparent lack of visible concern, given what just happened to his mother. The average son or family member would be hysterical and wondering, or at least theorizing, about what could have prompted Zachary to commit such a horrific act. However, there's a chance he's in shock, as this all just occurred a few hours earlier.
What kind of person is your brother?
Your typical male teenager.
Typical male teenager? You two get along pretty good?
Sometimes.
Despite this claim, texts between the brothers show that they messaged fairly often, talking about how their school year was delayed, video games, and how Zachary wanted to spend his birthday alone, with Josh writing to him, "If you don't want Ryan to come over, I can tell him not to. I want you to have your birthday the way you want it, and I especially want you to be happy on your birthday." In one more recent message, Josh even apologizes for arguing with Zachary. The brothers often used heart emojis in their messages, frequently saying "I love you" to each other. From the outside, it's difficult to imagine such a horrific tragedy occurring in this family, but only because Zachary has yet to reveal his motive to investigators.
When you talk to people on the phone, who do you talk to? I mean, do you have friends you chat with or anything like that?
No, sure. I usually only talk to my mother and my brother on my phone.
So you don't have any friends other than your mother and your brother that you talk to?
No, sure.
Zachary may not have had many friends outside of his family, but a note in his phone indicated that there was a teacher who he was close to. The note reads, "Thursday, March 29th, 2012. I saw Mr. Voss at school today. From the way he looked at me, I could tell he hated me. I didn't know what to say to him, so I just kept walking. I really hope I can repair our friendship before I leave Tennessee. He's the only person I've met that has sincerely cared about me. Hell, he's like a father to me. I don't know what I did to cause this, but I hope it can be forgiven. Mr. Voss is also the only true friend I've ever had." This note depicts a very different person from the emotionally detached teen we're seeing in this interrogation. His note shows indications of emotion, of caring what another person thinks of him, and of caring about another person, his teacher. The note indicates that Zachary may be lonely, and that he may not be able to connect with kids his age if he names a teacher as his friend. In his interview, Josh tells the detectives that when the movie ended around 8 p.m., the family went directly home.
You didn't see anything tonight that was any different than the way he normally acts?
I mean, no.
It's surprising that Zachary was not either acting differently from his typical behavior just prior to murdering his mother, or at least showing a change in his behavior recently. The level of aggression that he inflicted on his mother when he killed her, and the simple fact that he went through with murdering her, are behaviors that occur when a person has snapped or has reached an emotional breakdown. Josh then recounts going into his mother's room to talk to her just a few hours before Zachary killed her.
I went and talked to my mom for a little while, and then
Remember about what time that was?
that was right around 9, probably. That was right when I said good night, and then she went to sleep, and then I went upstairs and was in my room.
So you talked to her for a few minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
She was working out when I went in there, so I worked out with her for a minute.
What was she doing when you said she was working out? What was she working out?
Like doing sit-ups and stuff.
Despite describing what were his last moments with his mother, Josh still shows very little, if any, emotion.
When you get home and your mom goes to bed at 9, where are you and what are you doing in the house? Are you in the house?
I was in the room already planning everything.
You were in your bedroom or in the room where the fire was started?
The room where the fire was started.
What do you call that room?
What do you call it? Game room.
Game room? So you're in the game room planning everything?
Yes, sir.
All right. And how long does it take you to plan that?
Probably a few minutes, but I waited for several hours to make sure everybody in the house was asleep.
How did you make sure they were asleep?
I just waited and then checked on them.
Just checked on them? Opened the door and looked at them?
Yes, sir. I killed her at around 11 p.m., I think. And I think she went to sleep at around 9 o'clock.
Okay. When you killed her, what about your brother lives there with you too, right? That's the only person who lives with you?
Yes, sir.
Did you do anything to him?
No, sir. I was kind of expecting the fire to kill him.
Oh, you were? Okay.
That's right. Zachary didn't just set the fire in an attempt to destroy the evidence of him killing his mother, but also in the hopes that his brother would be killed by the flames. As well, to ensure Melanie's death, after hitting her with the sledgehammer, Zachary locked the door behind him to prevent Josh from going in and potentially helping her.
And then I woke up around, I'm not sure what time it is, what time the thing was going off. And, at first I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like a sound in my room. Then I figured out it was a fire alarm. I was running around and I was looking for my brother upstairs in his room. He wasn't in there, and I saw the fire was started in there. So I ran down the stairs to get my mom, and the door was locked. So I had to kick the door in to get in there. And then I saw her on the bed.
What did you do then?
I just went outside the house and called 911 and went and got my neighbors and Mark and Shelley.
Where'd you get the sledgehammer at?
From my garage.
Okay, and what about, how did you try and set the fire?
First I tried to drag a lawnmower upstairs and get to the fuel tank in the room, but I couldn't do that, so I just poured a bottle of whiskey on the floor and lit it on fire.
A bottle of whiskey?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was that before or after you hit your mom?
After.
After, okay. How many times did you hit her with the sledgehammer?
I don't know.
I mean, any estimation?
I'd say at least 12.
12 times. Where did you hit her at on her body?
Around the head area.
Okay, was she sleeping at the time, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did she wake up and say anything to you?
No, sir. I put my fingers on her neck to check her pulse and make sure she was dead.
Did you touch her anywhere else?
No, sir.
Have you thought about touching her anywhere else?
No, sir.
Josh was asked the same question, likely to determine if his story will match the forensic evidence found on Melanie's body.
When you went in the bedroom, at any time did you touch your mom? When you went in that room?
No, I don't think so. Like, I kind of, no.
He witnessed the altercation.
Like, I ran in and I just, no, because then I saw her and I was like freaking out.
When you left, what were your plans at that point?
I haven't thought that far ahead.
Oh, you hadn't. When did you think about doing this? I mean, when did this pop into your head as far as killing your mom?
Several years ago.
Had you told anybody about it?
No, sir.
So, with this, I mean, thinking about this, was your mom just bad to you, or
No, sir.
a pretty good mom? Was she a pretty good mom, or?
She wasn't really good mom, but
No.
she wasn't really a bad mom.
No.
Refusing to classify her as either a good or a bad mom and sounding apathetic regarding his relationship with her could indicate that he was unable to form a true emotional connection with her or anyone else. Because of his willingness to answer most of the investigators' questions, except for his all-important motive, they ask him a series of questions to get as much information as possible.
He mentioned a note that has been found. When did you have a chance to write that?
While I was waiting and after I did it.
So you
okay.
did the whole note. There's like two and a half pages. You did it all tonight.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you did some before you killed your mother and some after?
Yes, sir.
When did you write the last part? About what time did you write the last part?
I don't know, sometime around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., I think.
Okay, while you were out walking and stuff.
Yes, sir.
Was it before you bought the Pepsi at the Thorntons?
Yes, sir.
You had your phone with you for a while. Did you call anybody on your phone?
No,
After?
sir.
Okay, what'd you do with your phone?
I didn't do anything with it. I didn't even realize it was in my pocket until I left Thornton's.
So where's it at now?
I threw it in a ditch.
Why'd you throw it away?
I assumed that I could be tracked through it.
Okay. What was your plans as far, I mean, you didn't have any plans on where you're heading to, or how, evidently you were trying to escape and trying to get away from police. You don't remember where you're trying to go to.
No, sir.
You had a backpack, and so you had stuff. You were just going to walk and just try and get out of the area.
Yes, sir.
Chillingly, after killing his mom and fleeing the house, Zachary went to a convenience store to buy a Pepsi before he began walking in an attempt to escape from police. Though he had made an elaborate plan, it doesn't appear that he thought ahead to what he would do after. According to unverified rumors online from people claiming to live in Sumner County, after setting the fire, Zachary ran non-stop for almost 5 miles with no destination in mind. Ironically, a note on his phone written 7 months earlier on January 22, 2012, indicates that he had thought about his escape, or at least criminals escaping police detection more broadly. The note states, "After reading dozens of news reports about killers, I believe I found several consistent reasons why most killers are caught within a year. They rely too much on civilization. Most killers hide out in heavily populated areas or easily accessible areas. They don't migrate to other areas after several kills in a row. This makes the police in their area more alert and the citizens more cautious. Most rely too much on firearms or other weapons that produce loud noises. This will attract unwanted attention to their location." This sort of obsession with murder and serial killers can occur among people with severe mental illness. The fixation doesn't necessarily have to be with murder and serial killers, but it just so happened to be the case with Zachary. These individuals may often struggle with low self-esteem and therefore derive a sense of feeling powerful when they identify with bad guys like serial killers. Zachary may have felt tough and strong by learning the strategies of killers and thinking he could emulate them. Maybe this gave him a sense of identity, believing that he could not only be a killer too, but become a smarter killer by not making the same mistakes as the criminals he studied. Still, there was other evidence of Zachary's plan falling apart, such as the knife investigators found abandoned at the scene.
So why is the knife outside?
I was trying to put it into my backpack, and then the fire alarm started, and I just ran out.
What were you going to use that knife for?
Same thing I used the sledgehammer for.
Who were you going to use the knife on?
No specific person.
Were you looking to kill someone else tonight?
Only if they got in my way.
What do you mean by that?
If they tried to stop me from escaping.
So the lady at Thornton's who sold you the Pepsi, she was never in any danger.
No, sir.
But the officer that arrested you could have potentially been in danger if you were of the mind.
I guess, but it would be kind of pointless considering he had a gun and I just had a knife and a hammer.
What if he didn't have a gun and he tried to stop you?
I wouldn't attack him unless I was provoked by him.
Were you provoked by your brother?
No, sir.
Were you provoked by your mother?
No, sir.
What is most troubling is that according to both Zachary and Josh, there was no indication that he had been planning any of this. In crime scene photos exclusively obtained by Ewu, there appears to be a code written on what may be the handle of the sledgehammer. Police also recovered a handwritten alphabetic key to the code. The code written on the handle translates as Z Requiem. This has never been publicly confirmed, but ZED could possibly stand for Zachary's initials, Zachary Everett Davis. He may have also named the sledgehammer Requiem, which often refers to a mass for the dead. This is pure speculation and just a theory, but this coded message could potentially be evidence that Zachary may have planned the attack ahead of time.
This is kind of serious. I mean, Zach, it's kind of serious thing to think about killing your mom. You didn't try and talk to anybody about this?
No, sir.
Why not? I mean, didn't this not bother you? Or
Yes, sir.
it did bother you?
No, sir.
Oh, it did bother you? Have you ever hurt anybody before?
No, sir.
Well, I mean, how did you feel when you killed your mom?
I didn't feel anything.
It's possible that Zachary is saying what he thinks a serial killer would say, as though he's playing a role. It's difficult to say for sure, but we know that he was affectionate toward his mother in the text messages they exchanged, and she was affectionate toward him as well. He made the same comment about not feeling anything about his father's death. It's possible that it's easier for Zachary to cut off all emotion than to feel the pain of grief and loss. On the other hand, his complete detachment from his mom may be the result of a personality disorder, such as schizoid personality disorder. In this disorder, the individual does not want to have any close relationships, even with family members. They prefer to be alone and appear to be cold and have a flattened affect, as Zachary does.
Did y'all have any, I mean, was there any problems between you and him, or him and your mom, or
Not that I know of.
did they have any
What are they paying him?
disagreements, or, I mean, was there anything
Like, I think they would argue.
other than normal parent kid
Not that I
argument?
know
By the
of.
parks office.
And yet, Zachary had savagely attacked his mother while she slept.
What did you do with the sledgehammer after you hit her with it?
I just laid it in our laundry room.
Why did you hit her about 12 times within why so many times?
To make sure she was dead.
The officer asks Zachary to demonstrate how he swung the sledgehammer to kill his mother.
Kind of like that, basically.
So you right-handed?
Yes, sir.
Stand back up. Stand back up. Is that blood on your pants right there? In the front, right where your crotch is.
Oh, no, that's dirty.
Did you change
This
clothes?
is blood, though.
Oh, okay. And is that your mother's blood?
Yes, sir.
Those are the same shoes you were wearing?
Yes, sir.
Those are the same pants you were wearing?
Yes, sir.
That's the same shirt you were wearing?
No, sir.
Where's the shirt you were wearing?
I threw it away.
Why'd you get rid of that shirt?
It had pieces of my mother's brain stuck to it.
Still trying to understand why Zachary had killed his mother in such a brutal way, the officer asks him to recount his day before the attack. It was then that detectives noticed something interesting. Zachary told them that he started his day by reading a book, Misery by Stephen King.
In the Misery book, one of the characters uses a sledgehammer. Am I correct in that?
Yes, sir.
Actually, the detectives have this wrong. In the book Misery, the main character uses an axe, while in the movie adaptation, she uses a sledgehammer.
Are you sure you didn't get any of your thought process from that book?
Yes, sir.
So,
I smashed my mother's head with it, and the boat she used it to break her victim's legs.
so do you think, so you're saying that's strictly coincidence?
Yes, sir.
So you didn't draw any kind of thought process from the book Misery as to how you killed your mother?
No, sir.
Zach, we've been doing this a long time, and I mean, sledgehammer is a very unusual weapon to kill somebody with. So that's why he and I are asking that question, why a sledgehammer?
I would have used a knife, but I was worried that I'd miss a vital area.
Did you have any other type of weapons in the house that you thought about using?
I also thought about using a claw hammer.
A claw hammer?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you don't remember feeling anything? Did you cry?
No, sir.
Were you screaming when you were hitting her?
No, sir.
Did you say anything to her before you hit her?
No, sir.
Did you love your mother?
Somewhat.
You say somewhat. I mean, is there anything she's ever did to you that you hate her for?
No, sir.
Though Zachary denies that the book inspired his weapon of choice, possibly because he wants to take all the credit himself, his internet history indicates that murder and death was something he'd been thinking about for a long time. He had two particularly strange apps downloaded on his phone, including one about serial killers and another about torture devices. As well, among the more mundane video game cheat codes and jokes, he had a copious amount of gory images. Zachary had also bookmarked a few bizarre websites, including articles about the murder of Junko Furuta, Catherine Murch, who took her own life after killing her kids, the Louisville chainsaw murder, a cult leader on trial in Ohio for killing a family of 5, and an X-Acto knife double homicide. He also had a particular obsession with the killer Nevada Tan, also known as the Sasebo slashing, where an 11-year-old murdered another schoolgirl, 12-year-old Satomi Mitarai. Perhaps most tellingly, Zachary had also bookmarked an article titled Understanding Schizophrenia from helpguide.org. It's possible that he may have been trying to figure out why he was experiencing certain symptoms. Although Zachary may have some sort of severe mental illness, maybe even psychosis, as he's sitting in the interrogation room answering questions, he appears more like a cold-blooded murderer than a person suffering from psychosis. But this wasn't all. Zachary made notes on his phone that give unique insight into his twisted state of mind leading up to the killing. One says simply, Samantha Marshall, female, possible victim of rape. Another says, hanging over the masses like a shadow or a dark cloud, executing them all one by one without a sound. Omnipresent and biding its time, ready to steal you away at your prime. Welcoming to the stupid and the bold, not following any pattern, just doing as told. Laying to rest kings, queens, peasants, and thrall, death will eventually punish us all.
So you could rewind the clock and go back. What would you do?
I would probably kill Josh with a sledgehammer too.
In stark contrast to Zachary's statement, When Josh was brought in for a second interview, the detective asks him about an incident that occurred at school, showing that the brothers saw their relationship with each other completely differently.
But when you got in trouble at school, I think it was last year, what happened to cause that when you got in a fight? Somebody said they were picking on Zach.
Oh, no, that was 8th grade.
Oh, was it 8th grade?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was middle school, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What happened to cause, I mean, what were they doing?
He was like he had like a piece of paper, like you know how you roll up a thing of paper.
Mm-hmm.
He was just kind of hitting him with that.
Hitting Zach with it?
Yeah, and I told him to keep this stop, and he went up there and did it again. So.
Okay. And what was Zach's take on that?
I mean,
was he mad that the guy was hitting him, or was he just indifferent, or did he ask you to do something about it? Or
no, he didn't ask me to do anything.
Okay. Just taking up for little brother.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible that Zachary resented that his brother stepped in to be the hero. He may have been frustrated that he couldn't protect himself and instead had to be saved by Josh.
Do you still want to kill Josh?
Yes.
And you're not going to tell me why?
No, sir.
I'm really curious as to why. I mean, you said that he was the only confidant you had. You didn't talk to anybody else. Why would you want to get rid of the only person that you confide in and talk to?
I don't know.
Well, you said you don't want to tell me, so you do know. There's a difference in wanting to tell me and not knowing. You just told me you didn't want to tell me, so you do know why you want to kill your brother and you killed your mother. I would just like for you to share that with me.
I'd rather not, sir.
But you will admit that you know why you did it.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you this. Do you always talk like you're talking to us now?
Yes, sir.
So if I talk to someone that knows you or a teacher, they're going to say, this is your demeanor. This is how you talk.
Most likely.
So you're always monotone and robotic when you talk.
Yes, sir.
Unnerved by Zachary's behavior during his interrogation, detectives asked Josh the same question.
Has he always been talking that monotone voice?
Like quiet.
He's kind of quiet, and his voice don't go up or down. It's just like a flat monotone voice. Is that the way he normally talks? Always? When did he start talking that way?
It's always been the way I remember.
Really?
Yeah.
You ever laugh?
Sometimes.
What makes you laugh?
Various things.
Various things.
Give me an example.
While I was laughing my ass off when I killed my mother.
You were what?
I was laughing when I killed my mother.
You were laughing? Why were you laughing?
I don't know.
Were you laughing your ass off at that time?
Yes, sir.
Paradoxical laughter often occurs among people with schizophrenia. They may laugh either to themselves, often in response to a hallucination, or they may laugh in serious situations. However, throughout the interrogation, he has not laughed inappropriately at all. It's possible that Zachary once again is trying to present himself as the evil villain he may identify with. Whether Zachary is as void of emotion as he's trying to portray is unknown. His note entries on his phone, which show expressions of emotion, puts into question this image of himself that he's trying to show in interrogation.
Why were you laughing your ass off when you killed your mother?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. We went over this a while ago. You know why that you wanted to kill your mom. You just don't want to tell me.
No, I actually don't know why I was laughing.
Well, was it a sense of accomplishment?
No, sir.
Do you laugh when you read the horror books?
No, sir.
Did you laugh today or yesterday when you read Misery?
No, sir.
Do you see do you see why it would be difficult for me to understand why that would be funny?
Yes, sir.
A lot of people, because it's just highly unusual for a 15-year-old to take a sledgehammer and be laughing his ass off and hit her in the head with it 12 times. What do you think?
don't have any new information to give to you.
You can't think of any reason whatsoever?
No, sir.
With still no indication why he killed his mother in such a brutal way, the detective attempts to figure out if there were any issues in the family that may have motivated Zachary. In response to the detective's continued questioning, Zachary makes a shocking allegation against a family member, claiming that they assaulted him years earlier. This has never been proven to be true, and there is no evidence to back up any of Zachary's allegations.
What did he do to you?
He me shortly after we arrived to Tennessee.
How long ago was that? How long you been in Tennessee?
Since 2008, I think, or 2007. I don't really remember the exact date when we moved here.
Did you tell your mom about it?
Yes, sir.
What'd she do?
She didn't believe me.
She didn't believe you? Did he leave you after that?
No, sir.
Just that one time is when he did it?
Yes, sir.
And
How old would you have been then?
11.
Did you hold any ill will towards him for that?
Yes, sir.
And the conversation you had with your mother about that, can you tell us about that?
She thought it was my imagination.
Did she ever talk to him?
Not that I know of.
Did he never mentioned anything?
No, sir.
And why did he stop doing it?
I stopped bathing after that.
You stopped bathing
Yes, sir.
and he stopped, and that made him stop?
Yes, sir.
when you mean stop bathing, you mean you stop taking baths and showers altogether?
Yes, sir.
So how did you clean yourself?
I didn't.
You haven't cleaned yourself since 2008?
I have inconsistent intervals, but it's not very common.
Okay.
The detectives have referred to a notebook they found at the house, which miraculously survived the fire. Within, they found 2 notes written by Zachary. "I was raped by him that day, and I've been planning to kill him ever since." The second entry, a confession, is believed to be written right after he killed his mother. "I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel remorse. My only true regret was that I didn't give her a faster death. I didn't want her to suffer." It's possible that Zachary's belief about being assaulted was actually a delusion. Individuals diagnosed with schizophrenia may experience delusions, which are strongly held beliefs that are unfounded.
There's always a reason. There's always a story. And just because it's your story and we're sitting here today doesn't make it any less important to us. It's important to us to find out what the truth is. We would like to deal with that, but we want to hear your side of it. We want to know what happened. Why did, obviously upset you. But your mom didn't do anything. You know why it took this long for you to act out?
No, sir.
So you just boiled and boiled and boiled? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Would there have been any certain thing tonight that would have set that off? I mean, made you think about doing this? I mean, anything particular that happened of all nights, since 2008, it's 2012 now, of all nights since then that you would have did this?
No, sir.
As the interview begins to draw to a close, the detectives ask Zachary a few last questions.
What do you think what should happen if somebody did what you did?
I don't know.
I mean,
I guess whatever's necessary.
whatever's necessary, but I mean, what do you feel? I mean, what do you feel? I mean, if somebody was to do this to you, what should happen to them?
I don't think it would really matter. Because if you give them the death sentence, they'll die. And if you give them a life sentence, they'll die in prison anyway. So in the end, it doesn't really matter.
So, did you think about the consequences when you did this? What could happen to you?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me about that?
No, sir.
Why not?
rather not, sir.
I mean, I'm talking about, do you think you could get caught by the police, and do you think that was a possibility?
Yes, sir.
And if you got caught by the police, what do you think would have happened to you?
Well, since I only killed one person, I assumed I'd get the life sentence.
Okay.
But I don't know how it works here.
The officer had just one last question for Zachary, and this one oddly results in the most animated reaction that they've seen from him. But his unsettling response isn't at all what you might expect from someone in this situation.
Do you always look at people through your eyebrows?
I don't know. I've never
You've been doing it all morning. Do you do that? Is that a habit, or is that something that you're just started to do?
I guess it's a habit. I've never really noticed.
You never really noticed?
No, sir.
Nobody's ever said anything to you about it.
No, sir.
Why'd you giggle?
It's just funny, I guess.
I mean, you don't know that you do that right there?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm not picking on you, I'm just... It looks kind of evil when you do that, I'm gonna have to say. I think you know you're doing it. And you're smiling about it, so I think you're pretty aware of what you're doing.
No, I didn't realize I was doing it.
Yeah, you did.
Given what we know about Zachary's obsession with murder and serial killers, it's likely that being called evil is a compliment. This again shows that he might identify with some sort of evil character or villain. If Zachary's monotone voice and eerie eyebrow stare are all an act, it's impressive because he was able to keep up the act and not break character throughout the whole interrogation. Following his interrogation, Zachary was evaluated by psychologists and mental health experts. One stated they believed that at the time of the killing, Zachary didn't have the mental capacity to meet the legal definition of premeditation, and that his mental illness affected his ability to use reflection and judgment. In fact, the psychologist said that at the time of the crime, his thoughts were driven by psychosis. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and a depressive disorder. Changing his story from what he initially said to investigators, Zachary told one doctor that he had heard his deceased father speaking to him and that he had allegedly urged him to kill his mother. Still, investigators pointed out that he had fled the house with bags he had already packed, ditched his phone, and told police that he'd been thinking about killing his mother for years, all demonstrating that he planned the crime. Zachary eventually appeared on the Dr. Phil show, where he gave yet another reason for killing his mother, this time changing his story completely and claiming that he did it because, quote, "she wasn't taking care of my family." But still, in this interview, he maintains that he was the one who killed her. However, he would shock everyone, including his own legal defense, when in court he once again told a completely altered story, naming a different killer. During his trial, Josh sat directly behind Zachary, but the brothers never spoke. When Zachary took the witness stand, he changed the story he had been telling for 2.5 years and stated, quote, "I didn't do it." He suddenly blamed the entire crime on Josh, claiming that he was the one who used the sledgehammer to kill their mother and that he just took the fall, making him innocent. Following this, Zachary's attorney attempted to declare him mentally incompetent and for the case to be deemed a mistrial. Furthering the drama, after his lunch break, the attorney asked to be dismissed from the case, but was denied. The judge speculated that he wasn't sure if Zachary was the ultimate con man or manipulator or not, but that was the jury's job to figure out. Despite his last-ditch attempt to blame Josh, Zachary Davis was convicted of the first-degree murder of his mother, attempted first-degree murder of his brother, and aggravated arson. He was sentenced to 71 years in prison with eligibility for parole after 51 years. To this day, there is speculation that Zachary may have had aspirations to become a serial killer.
And on the surveillance video from SFO, she wasn't alone. She was walking with another man, a man with dark hair and a confident stride, Laszlo Szabo. "Who is Laszlo?" Vicentia asked. The room back at the command post. Another boyfriend, Ackerman said, pinning a photo to the board. He was in Hungary with her. They flew back together, then split up in San Francisco so she could fly home to Scott. My God, Vicencia rubbed his temples. She had a rotation. It's a dangerous game, Ackerman said. Someone got bumped from the rotation, and someone got angry. Chapter Xe, The Alchemist's Garage. Back in Long Beach, the sun had set, but Stephen Bill's house was lit up by floodlights. The neighbors stood on their lawns, arms crossed, watching the hazmat suits go in and out. Inside the garage, the bomb technicians were stunned. It wasn't just a few leftover chemicals. It was an arsenal. They found jars of potassium perchlorate, aluminum powder, magnesium, the ingredients for flash powder, the exact substance used in the bomb. They found tubes, fuses, switches, and they found something else. In the debris of the spa, the lab had recovered the casing of a battery, a 9-volt. Specifically, a CVS brand 9-volt battery. In Stephen's house, in a junk drawer, they found a 9-volt battery. But the smoking gun was in the trash can, or rather, not in the trash, but in the digital footprint. May 8th, CVS, Pharmacy, cash purchase. May 11th, Staples, purchase of a 12 PX EPX cardboard box. The box matched the description of the bomb. The battery matched the detonator. The chemicals matched the explosive. They brought Stephen in for formal questioning. The interview room was cold, the walls lined with soundproofing foam. Stephen, Ackerman said, sitting opposite him. We found the chemicals. A lot of chemicals. I told you, Stephen said, leaning back. Rocketry. It's a passion. We found a purchase for a box. I'm remodeling, Stephen shrugged. I buy boxes. I buy batteries. Who doesn't buy batteries? Stephen. Did you know Ildiko was seeing Laszlo? Stephen didn't flinch. I knew she had friends. We found photos on your phone. Photos of her, texts with Laszlo. You were translating them. Why? Stephen sighed. Curiosity. Look, I'm a writer. I'm writing a screenplay. Stephen sighed. I'm writing a screenplay. A screenplay? Yes. About a soccer mom, who is also an assassin. Stephen smiled. A genuine, unsettling smile. It's a comedy. Dark comedy. She kills people, but she still has to make the bake sale. Ackerman stared at him. Stephen, this isn't a movie. Life illuminates art, Stephen said cryptically. Then, he leaned forward. Do you like magic? Excuse me? Magic. Stephen reached behind Ackerman's ear. His hand moved with surprising speed. He pulled a coin out from behind the detective's ear. Ta-da, Stephen whispered. Ackerman recoiled. The man was either a sociopath or totally dissociated from reality. Stephen Beale, Ackerman said, standing up. It wasn't a murder charge. As they handcuffed him, Stephen looked at the coin in his hand. He flipped it. Heads or tails, he muttered. It's all just probability. Chapter 7. The glitch in the system. 1 week later, the federal prosecutors walked into the courtroom with their heads down. The arrest had been splashy. But science is slow, and the law is technical. The FBI lab had tested the destructive devices found in Beale's garage, the homemade pyrotechnics. They were certainly dangerous. But were they illegal under the specific federal statute used to charge him? The lab report came back. Items consistent with rocketry hobbyist materials. Cannot definitively classify as destructive devices without further intent to weaponize. It was a technicality, a loophole, without a confession, and without the DNA results back from the bomb fragments yet, they couldn't hold him on the explosives charge. We have to let him go, the prosecutor told Vicencia. You're joking. Vicencia slammed his hand on the desk. He has the chemicals. He bought the battery. Circumstantial. We need more. The judge dismissed the charges. Stephen Bial walked out of the federal detention center. He was wearing his street clothes. He blinked in the sunlight. Waiting for him at the curb was a woman. She was blonde, pretty, younger than him. Valerie Stone. Valerie had met Stephen on a dating app just 2 months before the explosion. She knew about Ildiko. Stephen had told her they were just business partners. She believed him. She believed he was a gentle soul, a victim of overzealous police work. She hugged him. I knew it, she sobbed. I knew you didn't do it. Stephen held her tight. Over her shoulder, he saw the unmarked car parked across the street. He saw Agent Ackerman watching him. Stephen smiled. Let's go home, Val, he said. I have a lot of cleaning to do. As they drove away, the ghost of Ildiko Krajniak seemed to fade into the smoke. But the investigation wasn't over. The FBI needed a way inside Stephen's head. They needed a Trojan horse. And Valerie Stone was sitting right in the passenger seat. Partaj Z. The Long Game. Chapter 8. Summer 2018. Freedom, for Stephen Beale, was a performance art. He had walked out of the federal detention center not as a broken man, but as a protagonist who had survived the first axe conflict. To the world, and specifically to Valerie Stone, he was the victim of a rushed judgment, a quirky hobbyist whose passion for rockets had been misinterpreted by a government desperate for a suspect. Valerie wanted to believe him. In fact, she needed to. She had a history of bad relationships, men who were stuck on their exes, men who wouldn't commit. But Stephen was different. He was attentive, he was present. And now, he was hers. It's over, she told herself as they drove down the freeway, the California sun bleaching the asphalt white. They dropped the charges. He's innocent. But the state didn't let go that easily. They were driving to run errands, a mundane slice of domesticity, when the flashing lights appeared in the rearview mirror. An Orange County sheriff's cruiser, then another, then a swarm. Valerie's heart hammered against her ribs. Pull over, Val, he said, his voice terrifyingly steady. She pulled the car to the shoulder. The loudspeaker crackled. Driver, step out of the vehicle. Do you see who is in the car with you? The deputy asked her as she stood by the roadside, the wind whipping her hair. Yes, Valerie snapped, her protective instinct flaring. You guys released him. You dropped the charges. What is the problem? It was harassment, pure and simple. That's what it felt like. They spent 3 hours on the side of the road. A bomb-sniffing dog circled their vehicle, sniffing at the tires, the doors, the trunk. Traffic slowed as rubberneckers gawked at the spectacle. Stephen sat on the curb, watching. You can open the posters? Valerie told the deputies aggressively as they rifled through the trunk, hitting record on her phone. We have nothing to hide. Valerie, face enough, they found exactly nothing. When they were finally allowed to leave, Valerie was shaking with rage. They just want to close the case, Val, he said softly. They don't care about the truth. They just want a body. A few months later, he cemented his hold on her. Valerie didn't hesitate. He gave her a ring, a diamond solitaire, over a carat. It was beautiful. In Neas, she moved into his house in Long Beach. She did her own due diligence, subtly at first. She went through his drawers, his socks, the corners of the garage. She found nothing suspicious. No wires, no secret journals. Just the debris of a life lived by a man with too many hobbies. He's not a murderer, she told Stephen's daughter. Charlene, he's just Stephen. Charlene, who knew her father's eccentricities better than anyone, agreed. But wanting it and proving it were two different things, and the FBI was done guessing. Chapter 9. The Invisible Net, Fall, 2018. While Stephen and Valerie planned their wedding, Agent Nick Vicencia sat in a windowless room at the FBI field office, staring at a monitor until his eyes burned. The destructive device charge had been a swing and a miss. It was a technical failure. They wouldn't make that mistake again. This time, they weren't looking for a statute violation. They were building a murder case. We need the link, Vicencia muttered. The box, the battery, the chemistry. The team had been sifting through terabytes of data. CCTV footage, financial records, search histories. It was boring, grinding work. The kind of work that didn't make it into the movies. Then, a hit. A forensic accountant flagged a transaction on Stephen's bank statement. A cash withdrawal from an ATM. Cross-reference the location, Vicencia ordered. The ATM was down the street from a CVS. The date was 1 week before the bombing. Vicencia pulled the surveillance footage from the CVS. He scrubbed through the timeline. Stephen Beale, wearing a hat, standing at the counter. He placed a single item on the belt, a CVS brand 9-volt battery. He paid in cash. In case, lek, spiri, a CVS, gotcha. Why pay cash for a battery? A man who used credit cards for everything else? Because he didn't want a record. Why pay cash for a battery? But there was more. Another transaction, Staples. This time, Stephen had used his rewards card asleep in tradecraft, or perhaps the arrogance of a man who didn't think anyone would check. He bought a cardboard box, dimensions, 12 by 6 by 6 inches. The survivor of the blast, the woman who had stood next to Ildiko, had described the box exactly. The battery matches the debris found in the ceiling, Ackerman noted, looking at the lab report. And now we have him buying the box and the battery days before the murder. It's circumstantial, the prosecutor warned. A jury might see a hobbyist buying supplies. We need intent, Vicencia said. What was in his head? They turned to his digital ghost. Stephen's search history. It was a window into a dark, narcissistic mind. He hadn't just been searching for acting roles. He had been searching for, do narcissists beat polygraphs? He's gaming it, Vicencia said. He thinks he's smarter than the machine. He thinks he's the lead character in his own thriller. We need to get inside that confidence, Ackerman said. We need someone he trusts. They looked at the photo of the happy couple on social media. Stephen Beale and Valerie Stone, smiling, the engagement ring glittering on her finger. Her, Vicencia pointed. She's the way in. Chapter 10. The proposition. Valerie was at work when the black SUV pulled up. 2 agents approached her. Valerie Stone, we need to talk to you. Off-site, she got into the black Suburban. It felt like an abduction, but she went willingly. She felt she had no choice. They drove her to a nearby park, a neutral ground where the birds were singing, completely indifferent to the gravity of the conversation about to happen. Leave your electronics in the car. They walked her to a bench. 1 agent stayed back, watching the perimeter. The other sat next to her. He opened a file folder. Valerie, you think you know Stephen, but you don't. He placed the photographs on the bench. And Stephen, buying the box. Stephen, buying the battery. He killed her. Valerie. He built a bomb, put it in a box, and sent it to the woman he claimed to love. Valerie stared at the photos. Her stomach churned. No. He wouldn't. We need your help. We need you to be a cooperating witness. You mean an informant, she said, her voice trembling. We want the truth. If he's innocent, help us prove it. But if he's guilty, do you want to marry a man who did this? Valerie looked at the horizon. She loved Stephen. Or, she loved the version of him she knew. But, the photos, the brutality of it. She was a moral person. I want you to catch the person who did this, she said finally. Even if it's Steven. Good, the agent said. Chapter 11, The Sting. The Malibu wine hike. The FBI didn't do things by halves. When Valerie mentioned she and Steven were planning a romantic getaway, a Malibu wine hike, the bureau stepped in. We'll pay for the hotel, the agent told her. But we need access. Valerie signed the consent forms. It was a nightmare. The weekend arrived. The hotel room in Malibu was luxurious, with a view of the ocean. But to Valerie, it felt like a prison cell. She knew that behind the mirrors, inside the lamps, there were cameras. Not just 2 people in the room, but 25. 23 of them were invisible, listening. Before they left, the agents gave her a gift, a necklace. Wear this, they said. Don't take it off. Wear this. It was a wire, a high-fidelity listening device disguised as jewelry. Oh, look what I found. Valerie chirped as she put it on in front of Steven. I haven't seen this in forever. I thought I lost it. Stephen smiled at her. Did he know? He was an actor. He studied human behavior. Did he see the tremor in her hands? The weekend was excruciating. They hiked through the vineyards, sipping wine under the California sun. Valerie's mind was racing. She had a script to follow. The agents had coached her. Get him angry. Bring up Ildiko. Make him confess. Bring up Ildiko. Stephen, she said as they sat on a balcony, the ocean crashing below. Do you ever think about her? About what happened? Stephen took a sip of Pinot Noir. He looked calm, serene even. I think about the tragedy, he said smoothly. It's terrible what happened to her. She didn't deserve that. But the police, they think you did it. Doesn't that make you mad? It makes me sad, Val. They need a villain. Villain. He didn't crack. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't slip up and mention a detail only the killer would know. He was perfectly, maddeningly consistent. Valerie tried harder. She pushed his buttons. She brought up the investigation, the injustice of it all. She wanted an outburst. She wanted the real Stephen to emerge. But the real Stephen, or perhaps the best performance of Stephen, remained cool, collected, and affectionate. Back at the command post, Vicencia and Marakel listened to the feed, static, wind, and Stephen Bill sounding for all the world like a grieving friend. He's good, Vicencia admitted, throwing his headset on the desk. He is very, very good. The sting was a bust. No confession, no smoking gun. Valerie drove home with Stephen, exhausted. Maybe he really is innocent, she thought. Chapter 12. The Actor's Craft. Winter 2019. The failure of the Malibu sting didn't stop the FBI. It just forced them to change tactics. If they couldn't get a confession, they would use his own life against him. Stephen, emboldened by the lack of movement in his case, went back to his life. He went back to acting. He was cast in a community theater production. The play, Deventai, Angry Juros, Thi, Sana, Seventai, Sana. The irony was so thick it was suffocating. Stephen Beale, the prime suspect in a federal murder case, was playing the foreman of a jury in a play about a murder trial. The FBI agents bought tickets. They sat in the audience, watching the man they were hunting deliver lines about justice and the death penalty. Just remember that this is a first-degree murder charge, Stephen intoned from the stage, his voice projecting to the back row. If we return a verdict of guilty, the accused goes to the electric chair. Vicencia watched from the darkness. It was surreal. Stephen was memorizing lines. He was performing complex monologues. Memorizing, Ilexera, he's on disability, Vicencia whispered to Maracle. For aphasia, memory loss, inability to read. They had him. Not for murder, not yet, but for fraud. Stephen had been collecting disability payments for a decade, claiming he couldn't function. Yet here he was, reciting pages of dialogue, driving, building rockets, and allegedly building complex bombs. He's playing us, Maracle said. He's playing everyone. Stephen finished the play. The audience applauded. He took a bow, smiling that enigmatic smile. He thought he was free. He was wrong. March 3. 2019. It was a Sunday morning. Stephen kissed Valerie goodbye while she was still in bed and went out to run errands. Malicis, tu petas F. Malicis, Valerie rolled over, enjoying the quiet. It was Stephen. I've just been arrested, he said. He handed the phone to someone else. Valerie sat up, the blood draining from her face. Charges? Malicious destruction of a building resulting in death, the agent said. It wasn't a technicality this time. It wasn't about fireworks. This carries a potential sentence of life in federal prison, the news anchor would say later that night. The lab had finished its analysis. The pieces of the puzzle, the battery, the wire, the chemicals, the box, the lies, the narcissist search. The jealousy had finally been glued together into a picture of premeditated murder. Stephen was gone. And this time, he wasn't coming back. Valerie hung up the phone. She looked at the diamond ring on her finger. The ring paid for by a man who, the government said, had blown his former lover to bits. She didn't take it off. He didn't confess, she whispered to the empty room. He didn't do it. But as Stephen sat in the interrogation room, stripped of his stage and his props, the curtain was finally rising on the third act. And this time, there would be no applause. Part 5. The final act. Part 5. The final act. Part 5. Chapter 17. The Recreation. June 2023. The wheels of justice grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine. A year after the mistrial, the United States government was ready to try Stephen Beale again. They were not going to leave room, for probably this time, the prosecution team returned to the courtroom with a sharpened focus. They systematically dismantled the alternative theories that had muddied the waters in the first trial. There was simply no one who had that amount of overwhelming evidence against them, the prosecutor declared. Not her husband, not the handyman, not the pups, just Stephen Beale. But words were not enough. The first jury had struggled to visualize the mechanics of the crime. They needed to see the violence. They needed to understand the lethality of the chemistry found in the quaint suburban garage. So, the government built a bomb, using the exact specifications derived from the forensic analysis, the same pipe, the same flash powder, the same battery. They created a replica of the device that killed Ildiko. They set it up in a controlled environment, placing it near a mannequin designed to mimic a human body. In the hushed courtroom, the lights were dimmed. On the screens, the video played. One moment, the mannequin was there. The jurors watched in stunned silence. The mannequin had disintegrated, a reporter observed. The hands and arms were blown into bits in very much the same way that Ildiko was found after she died. The distinct grayish-white smoke that filled the test chamber matched the smoke described by witnesses on Mare Blue. It was the signature of the oxidizer found in Stephen Beale's garage. This isn't a hobby, the prosecution argued. The image of the shattered mannequin lingering on the screen. And Stephen Beale is the only person who had the materials, the expertise, and the obsession to build it. Chapter 18. The Star Witness. Chapter The Star Witness. Stephen Beale had a new defense team, Megan Blanco and Anthony Solis. They knew they couldn't fight the science of the bomb. Their strategy was to fight the psychology of the bomber. Psychologically, this is not what jilted lovers do, the defense argued. He starts a new relationship. He moves on. To prove this, they called the race in the hall. They called the woman who had stood by Stephen through arrests, jail time, and a mistrial. They called Valerie Stone. Valerie took the stand, her face pale but determined. She was there to humanize the monster. She was there to tell the jury that the man accused of this horrific violence was the same man who had held her, loved her, and planned a future with her. She testified about the Malibu wine hike. She told the jury about the FBI agents, the bugged hotel room, and the necklace she wore to record him. They instructed me to ask him specific questions, Valerie told the rap jury. And did he confess? No, Valerie said firmly. There was no admission. She went further. Was he angry? No, Valerie said. He wasn't angry at all. The defense rested its case on this pillar. A guilty man would have cracked. A guilty man would have been enraged by the betrayal. All I want is a not guilty verdict, Valerie had said before the trial, because I know he didn't do it. Chapter 19. The verdict. The jury received the case. In the first trial, deliberations had dragged on, devolving into shouting matches and deadlock. This time, the overwhelming nature of the evidence, the visual proof of the bomb's power, the specificity of the battery, the purchase of the box weighed heavier than Valerie's character testimony. The nice guy act had finally worn thin against the cold, hard facts of chemistry and physics. In less than 2 hours, the buzzer sounded. The courtroom filled rapidly. We, the jury, find the defendant, Stephen Beale, guilty. The word hung in the air. Guilty. For El Dico's family, it was the exhale they had been holding for 5 years. Stephen was remanded to custody. There would be no bail, no going home to clean the garage. He was facing life in prison. There would be no bail to custody. There would be no bail to custody. Chapter 20. The final twist. After the verdict, the media scrutiny turned to Valerie. You still think he's innocent? The interviewer asked. I do, Valerie maintained. If he were guilty, he would have confessed. But there was one piece of evidence Valerie had never seen. She had been a witness, sequestered from the courtroom during the most damaging testimony. She hadn't seen the timeline the prosecution laid out. The interviewer pulled out a transcript of text messages. I read her some text messages between Ildiko and Stephen, the interviewer narrated, text Valerie hadn't seen. Valerie and Stephen had started dating in mid-April 2018. Building a relationship with you is the single most important period of my life, the interviewer read from Stephen's text log to Ildiko. You rock my world. You are the woman that I've always dreamed of. I will love you forever. Valerie blinked. That was on April 22nd, 2024. Oh, wow, Valerie whispered. April 28th, the interviewer continued. Valerie sat back, the air leaving her lungs. She had built her life around the belief that she was his one true love, that he had moved on from Ildiko before they met. She had testified to it. That kind of makes me feel. Right now, she stammered. I'm sorry about that. The image of the calm, loving fiancé cracked. Underneath, she finally saw the manipulator, the man who could pledge eternal love to one woman, while buying a diamond ring for another, the man who could smile at her while hiding a bomb in a cardboard box. I really need to reevaluate things, Valerie said, her voice hollow. The loyalty that had sustained her through FBI raids and prison visits evaporated in the face of a few lines of text. You owe yourself something here too, the interviewer said. Chapter 21. Epilogue. January 2024. Stephen Beale, now 68 years old, stood before a federal judge one last time. The sentence was a formality, but a necessary one. He was sentenced to life in prison. After 5 years of waiting and wondering, Eva said outside the courthouse, our family and friends had peace in knowing that Mr. Beale will spend his remaining days in prison. Stephen Beale would die in a cage, an ending far less dramatic than the ones he scripted for his characters, but infinitely more just. In Aliso Viejo, the scar on Mare Blue remained, but the town moved on. But for those who knew Ildiko Krajniak, the silence was heavy. They missed the noise she made. They missed the chaos and the joy. She will live forever in our hearts, Eva said. Holly Salcedo, the friend who had sat in Ildiko's chair just days before the end, remembered the feeling of leaving the spa. You go in and you depress, Holly said, and you leave the salon and you're flying. That was the tragedy of the Aliso Protocol. It wasn't just about the chemistry of an explosion or the mechanics of a trial. It was about the extinguishing of a light, of the mechanics in a woman who loved too much, lived too loud, and trusted the wrong man with her heart and her safety. The screen fades to black. The Aliso Protocol, based on the true events of the Ildiko Krajniak murder. Prologue, the thunder in the concrete. The sound did not belong to the suburbs. Aliso Viejo is a place of manicured beige stucco, terracotta roof tiles, and the gentle, rhythmic hum of sprinkler systems engaging in the pre-dawn hours. It is a leafy wedge of the Southern California dream tucked safely within the mythical embrace of Orange County. It is a place where the Real Housewives drama is filmed, where problems are usually solved with lawyers or retail therapy, not violence. But at 1:08 p.m. on May 15, 2018, the sound tore through the illusion. It wasn't a car backfiring. It wasn't a sonic boom from the military jets tracing the coast. It was a guttural, earth-heaving crump, a compression of air, so violent it felt less like a noise, and more like a physical blow to the chest of anyone within a half-mile radius. Holly Salcedo, sitting in her home on her lunch break, froze, the fork halfway to her mouth lowered. The air pressure in her living room seemed to shift, a phantom door slamming in the atmosphere. That wasn't right, she whispered to the empty room. A mile away, on a street named Mary Blue, an anglicized, innocent-sounding name, the two-story commercial building at Number Elegant shook, as if grabbed by the hand of an angry god. Glass shattered outward, not falling, but flying. A plume of white smoke, thick and choking, billowed out of the first-floor suite, curling instantly into the cloudless California sky. It carried a scent that didn't belong in a day spa, known for lavender and eucalyptus. Inside the crater that used to be a treatment room, the silence that followed was heavier than the noise. Then came the screams. Orange County Sheriff's Deputy Jack Ackerman was on patrol when the call cracked over the radio. Ackerman pushed his cruiser to the limit. As he skidded to a halt in the parking lot, his dashcam captured the scene. People running, debris scattered like confetti across the asphalt, and that damning white smoke. He keyed, his shoulder mic. He ran toward the gaping hole in the building's facade. The ceiling had collapsed. Insulation hung like weeping willow branches made of fiberglass. Is anybody hurt? Ackerman yelled into the gloom. A voice, choked with dust and shock, called out, 2, 3. Ackerman moved deeper, his boots crunching on drywall and glass. He keyed his radio again, his voice dropping an octave, stripping away the panic to leave only the cold, hard facts. I've got body parts, he said. He didn't need a coroner to tell him the woman was dead. The physics of the blast had been absolute. This was not a gas leak. This was not an accident. Someone had sent a message, and they had written it in fire and blood. Chapter 1. The Hungarian Rose. 3 days earlier, Ildiko Krajniak moved through the world with the kind of kinetic energy that exhausted people half her age. At Tesaranda Octo, she was a force of nature, a blonde, vibrant cosmetologist who had brought the fire of her native Hungary to the sedate strip malls of California. She had just returned from Budapest, a trip that was supposed to be a reset. She loved her son, Keanu, fiercely. She loved her work. But Ildiko was a woman of appetites and she loved the feeling of being adored. Her marriage to Ronnie Lovestil, a quiet, steady man, had cooled years ago. They were roommates now, co-parents living under the same roof, but existing in different emotional galaxies. Nilo was safe. He was family, but he didn't make her blood sing. So, Ildiko looked elsewhere. She collected admirers, like she collected the high-end creams she slathered on her clients' faces. There was Laszlo, the man she'd been in Hungary with. There were others, flickering in and out of her DMs and text messages. A good 5 or 6, her friends estimated. She didn't see it as deceit. She saw it as survival. She just wanted to be loved. But there was one man who didn't flicker. One who sat still in the center of her chaotic orbit. Stephen Bill. They had met on a dating site in 2016. He was older, 59, with a kind of eccentric charm that could be mistaken for sophistication. He was a Renaissance man, or so he claimed, an executive consultant, an actor, a mathematician, a rocket scientist. He had money, or appeared to. He had taken her on lavish trips Mexico, Canada, Portugal. They had built the spa, the Magyar Cosmetica, together. He had signed the lease. He paid the bills, but Ildiko had grown tired of Stephen. The quirkiness had curdled into something cloying. He was possessive. He checked up on her, and, more importantly, she had found new excitement in Hungary. She had broken it off with him, but not cleanly. On May the 20th, Ildiko arrived at the spa early. Sarah Thomas, a regular, was there for her lashes. She talked about the new man in her life, the one she wanted to get serious with, leaving the carousel of suitors behind. I'm going to move forward with him, Ildiko said, her accent thickening with emotion. She seemed happy, hopeful. Stephen Beale had been there earlier, or so it seemed. He had been texting her, checking in, always hovering. Around noon, a package caught her eye. It was a cardboard box, sitting innocuously near the reception desk. Brown cardboard, tape, nothing remarkable. Ildiko was a woman who received many packages, supplies, beauty products, gifts from admirers. She didn't hesitate. Why would she? She was in her sanctuary. She placed the box on the counter. Her client, a mother of 2, lay on the treatment table nearby, eyes closed, waiting for appeal. Ildiko sliced the tape. She lifted the flap. The last thing Ildiko Krajniak saw was not the contents of the box, but a blinding flash of white light. The 9-volt battery hidden within the cardboard completed its circuit. The filament ignited the flash powder, a volatile mixture of potassium perchlorate and aluminum powder, the same chemical composition used in high-grade fireworks. But this wasn't a firework. It was a shaped charge, packed tight to maximize velocity. The explosion occurred in less than a millisecond. The pressure wave vaporized the upper half of Ildiko's body instantly. It blew the roof off the building. It sent shrapnel tearing through the walls and into the bodies of the women nearby. The Hungarian rose was gone. Chapter 2. The Actor and the Alchemist. Stephen Beale lived in Long Beach, a seemingly gentle drive up the coast from the carnage in Aliso Viejo. His house was a testament to a mind that didn't like to throw things away. It was cluttered, filled with the detritus of a life spent dabbling. Stephen fancied himself an artist. He took acting classes, spending thousands of dollars to learn how to be someone else. He had headshots where he looked distinguished, a silver fox with a twinkle in his eye. He landed small roles, a judge, a doctor, a grandfather. He loved the applause. He loved the control of the stage. But Stephen had another hobby, one that he kept in the garage: rocketry. He wasn't just a weekend enthusiast launching cardboard tubes with his grandkids. He knew the precise stoichiometric ratios required to turn solid matter into expanding gas. He knew about electric matches. When the news of the explosion broke, Stephen was at home. He texted Ildiko. There was an explosion there? Ildiko, are you okay? Ildiko, are you okay? He called her phone. It went to voicemail. Ildiko, he called Valerie Stone, his current girlfriend. Yes, Stephen Bill had a girlfriend. He had moved on quickly after Ildiko, or so he told people. Valerie was a sweet woman, blonde like Ildiko, but softer, less volatile. She was looking for love, and she thought she had found it in the eccentric, attentive Stephen. I'm worried, Stephen told Valerie on the phone. Stephen called the police tip line himself. When the Orange County Sheriff's investigators, led by the sharp-eyed Jack Ackerman, arrived at Stephen's house later that day, they found a man in a state of high anxiety. Please, Stephen said, standing in his driveway, gesturing to a stack of packages that had just been delivered to his own porch. Don't touch those. I don't know what they are. It was a brilliant performance. Or was it genuine fear? They x-rayed Stephen's packages. Nothing. Just remodeling supplies. Relieved, they sat Stephen down in the back of an unmarked car. He was cooperative. He was talkative. Too talkative. He was car. Who would want to hurt her? Ackerman asked. Stephen shook his head, his eyes wide. I cannot come up with a single thought for who would ever want to hurt her. She was an angel. She was beautiful inside and out. He consented to a search of his home. While the FBI and the sheriff's deputies combed through his messy house, Stephen sat with Ackerman and began to talk. He talked about their relationship. He talked about how much they traveled. He talked about how she had cheated on him. She hid it, Stephen said, his voice dropping, losing some of the performative grief. If she had just told me she wanted an open relationship, I would have said okay. But the lies were the problem. Ackerman watched him. He saw the shift. The grieving partner mask had slipped, revealing the bruised ego beneath. Meanwhile, inside the garage, the search team froze. They weren't looking at remodeling supplies. They were looking at an arsenal. Tubs of chemicals. Potassium perchlorate. Aluminum powder. Sulfur. There were tubes, wires, fuses, and nestled among the clutter were devices that looked suspiciously like homemade explosives. Some looked like dynamite props. Some looked real. Some looked real. Some, an FBI agent stepped out of the garage, his face grim. He signaled to Ackerman. The helpful business partner wasn't just a rocket hobbyist. Chapter 3. The Red Herrings. While Stephen Beale sat in the back of the police cruiser, spinning yarns about screenplays and magic tricks, the investigation was branching out like cracks in a windshield. In a murder investigation, you start with the inner circle. The husband, Ronilo Vestil, Ildiko's husband, had arrived at the blast site in a panic. He had been weeping, begging officers for information about his wife. Is she in there? Is she okay? To the untrained eye, he looked guilty. Why was he there so fast? Investigator Ackerman and FBI agent Nick Vicencia looked at Nilo hard. They hauled him in. They put surveillance on him. A SWAT team raided his house, the house he shared with Ildiko, turning it upside down. Nilo sat in the interrogation room, exhausted and broken. Did you know about the other men? The agent asked. Yes, Nilo whispered. And that didn't make you angry? Nilo looked up, tears in his eyes. His alibi checked out. He was at work. His grief appeared genuine. He wasn't a chemist. He wasn't a rocket scientist. He was just a cuckolded husband trying to keep the peace. Then there was the other woman, Elizabeth Papp. The investigators dug into Ildiko's digital life and found venom. Ildiko had slept with a man named Gaber Papp. Gaber's wife, Elizabeth, had found out. The text messages were nuclear. She almost destroyed my family. Enough is enough. Elizabeth had even texted Nilo, demanding he control his wife. Be a man, she had taunted him. Stop her. It was the oldest motive in the book. a crime of passion. A scorned woman, removing the rival. Agents descended on the Papp residence. Elizabeth was defiant, angry, and unashamed of her hatred for Ildiko. I didn't like her. Elizabeth spat. Did you kill her? They searched the Papp house. They looked for chemicals. They looked for wires. They found nothing. Elizabeth Papp had a motive, but she had no means. She didn't know how to build a bomb that could vaporize a human being. The list of suspects was dwindling. The handyman, the lovers, the husband, they all lacked the specific, terrifying skill set required to construct the device that tore apart the Magyar spa. The bomb wasn't just a bomb. It was a signature. Amarasaye, the FBI lab technicians, were piecing together the debris from the blast site. They found fragments of a cardboard box. They found the shredded remains of a battery, a CVS brand A9-volt battery, and embedded in the ceiling tiles, fused by the heat of the blast, they found chemical residue. It matched the chemicals found in Stephen Beale's garage. Chapter 4. The interrogation. Stephen Beale walked into the Aliso Viejo substation voluntarily. He wasn't in handcuffs yet. He thought he was helping. Or perhaps he thought he was outsmarting them. The interview room was small, the air stagnant. Ackerman sat across from him. An FBI agent sat in the corner, silent, watching. Stephen was comfortable. Too comfortable. He leaned back, crossing his legs. I'm writing a screenplay, Stephen announced suddenly. Ackerman blinked. A screenplay? Yes. It's about a soccer mom who is a part-time assassin. She's very good. She covers her tracks. Stephen smiled, a thin, actor smile. That's interesting, Stephen, Ackerman said, keeping his voice flat. Let's talk about the chemicals in your garage. Oh, those. Stephen waved a hand dismissively. Model rockets. I used to build them with my kids. Huge ones. 4 stages. It became an obsession. And you still use them? No, haven't touched them in years. I don't even know what's in there. Ackerman leaned forward. Stephen, the bomb that killed Ildiko used an oxidizer. You have oxidizers in your garage. Well, Stephen shrugged. If there's an oxidizer in the bomb, and I have oxidizers, that's just a coincidence. Chemistry is chemistry. He was arrogant. He was playing a game of intellectual chicken with the police. Then he did something that made the hair on the back of Ackerman's neck stand up. Do you want to see a magic trick? Stephen asked. Before Ackerman could answer, Stephen reached behind the investigator's ear and pulled a coin from the air. He grinned. You're kidding me, Ackerman thought. A woman is dead. Her body is in pieces. And this guy is doing parlor magic. It was the behavior of a sociopath. A man disconnected from the reality of death. Stephen, Ackerman said, do you know what means motive and opportunity are? Sure, Stephen said. You have the means. The chemicals. The knowledge. The chemicals. I suppose I could fall into that category, Stephen admitted, seemingly unbothered. And motive? You were the ex-boyfriend. No, Stephen shook his head. But you texted her constantly. You paid her rent. I'm a generous guy. Ackerman stood up. He had seen enough. The quirky grandfather act wasn't working. Stephen, in my heart and in my gut, I think you killed her. Stephen didn't flinch. He just stared back, his eyes empty of empathy. That night, Stephen Beale was arrested. Not for murder, they didn't have the forensic link yet, but for possession of unregistered destructive devices found in his garage. The rocket hobby was illegal. It was enough to hold him, or so they thought. Chapter 5. The release. The justice system is a machine of gears and levers, and sometimes the gears slip. A week after the arrest, Stephen Beale sat in a federal holding cell. He was wearing an orange jumpsuit. He looked smaller, older. The swagger was dampened by the concrete walls. But outside, his lawyer was working. The federal statutes regarding destructive devices were specific. The FBI lab examiner, under oath, admitted the crucial detail. It was a loophole the size of a launch pad. The federal prosecutor, Mark Takla, looked at the judge. He had no choice. Without a direct link to the bomb, a fingerprint, a DNA match, a video of him building it, the possession charge was shaky. Your Honor, the government moves to dismiss the complaint without prejudice. The gavel banged. Charges dropped. Stephen Bill stood up. He was free. Patron, he was free. Valerie Stone was waiting for him in the parking lot. It's over, she sobbed. It's finally over. Stephen hugged her back. He looked over her shoulder at the courthouse, at the agents watching him from the steps. He didn't smile this time. Let's go home, he said. But it wasn't over. Back at the FBI field office, Agent Nick Vicencia slammed a file onto his desk. He walked, Vicencia growled. He blew her up, and he walked. Ackerman paced the room. We need more. We need to tie him to that specific bomb. Not just general chemicals. We need the box. We need the battery. We need a confession, Vicencia said. They looked at the whiteboard. A picture of Valerie Stone was pinned there. The loyal girlfriend. The woman who had stood by him, who had driven him home, who believed he was innocent. She's the key, Vicencia said. Ackerman nodded slowly. You think she'll flip? If she knows what kind of monster she's sleeping with? Yeah, she'll flip. The FBI began to plan. They weren't going to arrest Stephen Bill again until they had him dead to rights. They were going to launch an operation. A sting. They were going to turn his fiancée into a spy. Chapter 6. The Sting. Valerie Stone wanted to believe. She was a woman who had suffered through bad relationships, men who were stuck on their exes, men who lied. He proposed to her with a diamond solitaire that sparkled with promise. But the FBI agents who pulled her over in the black Suburban didn't care about the ring. They drove her to a park. They took her phone. They showed her pictures, not the grainy news footage of the building. They showed her the crime scene photos, the inside of the spa, the blood, the fragmentation. This is what he did, Valerie, Agent Maracle said softly. Look at it. Valerie wept. He says he's innocent, Valerie pleaded. He says it was rockets. He bought the battery, the agent said. He bought the box. We have him on CCTV, but we need to know why. We need him to say it. They laid out the deal. They weren't asking her to leave him. They were asking her to get close. We want you to go on that trip to Malibu, the agent said. Okay, Valerie sniffed. But you're not going alone. They handed her a necklace. It was a statement piece, chunky and silver. There's a microphone inside, the agent explained. Wear it. Get him talking. Ask him about Ildiko. Ask him about the bomb. Get him angry. See if the mask slips. Valerie Stone, the woman who just wanted a peaceful life. The weekend in Malibu was a surreal nightmare. The hotel room was wired. 25 federal agents were in the van outside, listening to every breath, every rustle of sheets. Stephen was relaxed. Valerie touched the necklace, her heart hammering against her ribs. Stephen, she started, her voice trembling slightly. Do you ever think about her? About Ildiko? Stephen took a sip of wine. But aren't you angry? I'm frustrated, Stephen said calmly. But the truth prevails, Val. I didn't do it. He was ice. He didn't crack. He didn't confess. He didn't even get annoyed. He was the perfect, loving fiancé. In the surveillance van, Agent Vicencia threw his headphones down. Nothing. he's giving us. Stephen Beale was either the most innocent man in America or the most disciplined sociopath the FBI had ever encountered. Valerie tried. The weekend ended. No confession. Valerie felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief that he hadn't confessed maybe he was innocent, and dread because she knew the FBI wasn't stopping. C was right. The forensics team had been busy. They had taken the fragments of the battery found in the ceiling the CVS Enya vault. They tracked the lot number. They pulled Stephen's bank records. 1 week before the bombing, Stephen Beale had gone to a CVS near his house. He paid cash. But the store security cameras were rolling. There he was, buying a single 9-volt battery. Then, they found the box. Stephen had purchased a specific size of cardboard shipping box from a store near the spa. The net was tightening. The coincidences were piling up into a mountain of evidence. On March 3, 2019, nearly a year after the explosion, the phone rang in the house Valerie and Stephen shared. Stephen answered. He listened. His face went pale. He handed the phone to Valerie. "It's the agent," Stephen said. "I've been arrested. This time, the charge wasn't possession. Malicious destruction of a building resulting in death. Federal code for murder. Stephen Beale was going back to jail. And this time, there would be no loophole." Chapter 7. The Trial of the Century. 4 years later, 2022, the wheels of justice grind slow, but they grind exceeding fine. Stephen Beale sat at the defense table. He was 63 now. His hair was thinner, his face more lined. He wore a suit, looking every bit the grandfatherly figure his defense team wanted the jury to see. The prosecution, led by Mark Takla, laid out the case. They played the video of Stephen's rocket demonstration, showing his comfort with explosives. They showed the CCTV of him buying the battery. They showed the text messages. "I love you forever," Stephen had texted Ildiko just weeks before he killed her. Obsession. Takla told the jury. He couldn't have her, so he destroyed her. He couldn't have her, so he destroyed her. They showed the photos from Stephen's phone. He had gone through Ildiko's Facebook. He had taken photos of her messages with Laszlo, the Hungarian lover. He had translated them. He knew everything. He was a stalker with a chemistry set. But the defense fought back. Where is the direct proof? They pointed fingers at everyone else. Elizabeth Papp, the jealous wife. Nilo, the husband. Max, the handyman who slept in his car. Stephen Beale is a weird guy, the lawyer admitted. He's an oddball. He likes rockets. That doesn't make him a killer. The jury retired to deliberate. Days passed. The tension in the hallway was thick enough to choke on. Finally, a note. "We are deadlocked. A mistrial." Stephen Beale smiled. He had done it again. He had acted his way out of a conviction. He was the star of Devon to angry jurors. But the prosecution wasn't giving up. "We will retry him," Takla vowed to the press. June 2023, the second trial. This time, the government didn't hold back. They built a replica of the spa. They built a replica of the bomb. In a silent courtroom, they played the video of the test explosion. The mannequin, dressed like Ildiko, stood at the counter. Boom. The violence was absolute. The mannequin was obliterated. The jury watched, horrified. This wasn't a hobby. This was a weapon of war. The jury watched. Then, the defense played their ace. Valerie Stone. She took the stand. She was no longer the fiancée. The relationship had withered under the strain of incarceration and time. But she still defended him. He never confessed, Valerie told the jury. "I wore a wire. It was powerful testimony. If the man didn't confess to the woman he loved in the privacy of a hotel room, Maybe he really didn't do it. Maybe he really didn't confess to the woman